Does my client need therapy or does my client need coaching? A question that tends to plague a lot of coaches. And as a result, a lot of coaches find themselves grappling about the question, should I be doing a psychology degree? Should I become a therapist instead? Or they tend to question their expertise a lot. They tend to come across a challenging case and they think that, okay, I don't know if I can do it. Maybe this person needs a therapist. Maybe I'm not equipped for it. Maybe I should have done something else. And a lot of coaches as a result have quit their practice because of this, because they keep on battling with this question. Because the thing is that when it comes to coaching and therapy, there is a lot of intersection there. As much as we would like to believe that these two are very separate things, personal growth and inner work that happens inside therapy tends to overlap a lot, right? And that is why coaching and therapy is something that a lot of people do alongside, or it is something that a lot of people find themselves doing one after the other, right? And some people also find that one works better for them despite them assuming otherwise. For example, I am somebody who started off with therapy. In fact, I've studied psychology for 5 years and I was on the path of, to become a therapist, but I found myself that therapy did not really work for me, no matter how many therapists I tried. But when I worked with a coach for the very first time in my life, something just clicked. And since then, I have never stopped working with a coach. And as a result, I also decided that this is the path for me. So in today's video, we are going to break down how do we determine whether the client that we have in front of us is somebody we can coach or somebody we are supposed to send away to therapy. Okay, I have a few points here and I want to cover everything. Starting with the first one, which is the difference. What is the difference between therapy and what is the difference between coaching and where do they overlap? So you have to understand that coaching is future focused. Okay. A coaching client is somebody who wants to move forward, who is focused on the kind of goals they would like to achieve, both in their personal and professional life. Therapy is past focused. Okay. In coaching, you measure your client's progress against the goals that you guys have set. But in therapy, that is not what happens. In therapy, you can go for sessions after sessions, but you are not really measuring your progress against a goal. But coaching is not like that, right? Coaching is something where you measure the goals that you set with your client with, right? Set with your client, sorry. So that's the first distinction. The second distinction is that coaching involves somebody who actively participates in taking action. Okay. Therapy is not that. In therapy, your client may never take any action, and that's okay. You are talking to them session after session, and they're simply taking time to process. Maybe therapy is just a safe space for them. Coaching is not always that. Okay. In coaching, there is this underlying, I would say, understanding that you as a client are going to take action, right? So if somebody comes to you and they're coming from a place that I am absolutely not in a place to take any action, that is not somebody you can coach. That is somebody that you have to send to therapy, right? Now, it does not mean that anybody who cannot take action is somebody you cannot coach. There has to be some desire. Okay. For example, let's say somebody comes to you with a problem that they have procrastination and they really have this desire to take action, right? Now the desire exists. So when you coach them, they can come to that action, right? They can overcome they can overcome their procrastination and they can come to a place where they can take action. But when they absolutely have no desire to take action, where they feel like, I don't really have any desire to move forward, like I feel really stuck and there is no desire to take any action whatsoever, then they might need therapy because there is a lot of past work that they need to do. Okay. Now coming to the second parameter, what does the client actually want to focus on? So let me tell you, both therapy and coaching is client led, especially coaching, right? So when you are sitting with a client, what matters is what does the client want to focus on? Maybe you are sitting with somebody who is carrying a lot of past trauma, who is carrying a lot of emotional neglect in their past, and who clearly needs a therapeutic intervention, but they don't actually want it. They actually want to focus on goals that are immediate or goals where they want to get coached around and move forward. So there you cannot tell the client that, oh, you are wrong. You need something else. You have to inform the client that this is what can help you even more. But at the end of the day, the decision rests with the client. Okay. Oftentimes you will encounter people who you believe may need therapy, but they don't actually want it. They actually want coaching instead. So here you have to honor the client's wants and desires and needs. You have to inform the client, but the decision still rests with the client, right? Because again, we are not taking a godlike um, position here that, I know better than you. The third thing is there a diagnosed mental health disorder? And this is very important. If somebody is dealing with a diagnosed mental health disorder, then therapy is what they need to go with first, because there's a very high chance that the reason they are not able to um, kind of achieve their goals or not able to live a life they would like to live is because of that mental health disorder. So if you believe that there is a lot of history that a client is coming to you with, ask them if this is a diagnosed mental health disorder. And I'm using the word diagnosed because these days a lot of people tend to use words like depression very loosely, OCD very loosely, bipolar very loosely. So that is why whenever somebody comes and tells you, I think I have ADHD, I think I have OCD, please ask them, is this something that you have gotten diagnosed? Because there is so much information floating around on the internet these days, people like to diagnose themselves. Okay. So if somebody has a diagnosed mental health disorder, your job is to ask them if this is something that they are taking active help for. Okay. And if this is something that they are actually working on, because if not, then you need to let them know that therapy is what they need to go for if there's mental health disorder involved. Another point is if there is a lot of trauma involved, okay, if there's a lot of childhood trauma that you see, then you need to send them to somebody who's trauma informed. That can be a coach or a therapist, right? Whoever you know and whoever you believe is credible. But then they need to go do that work first. Now, coming to what not to do. Now, often what tends to happen is that a lot of coaches, because they don't actually get the right kind of supervision and they don't tend to have a lot of support in their journey, they get very overwhelmed when they come across people talking about their problems. And there's this tendency to think that I don't know how I'll be able to help this person has too many problems, I'm not equipped, or going down this rabbit hole of I will do this certification, I will do this degree in order to buy this feeling of preparation, right? And you have to understand that that is never going to happen. Just because you have a challenging client case does not mean that you are not equipped. You have to understand that you are going to deal with client cases that will be new, that will be challenging, and that will challenge your expertise and your skill set as a coach. That does not mean that you abandon the case. You have to engage in inquiry. You have to ask questions to the client and yourself about your preparedness. Okay. So, for example, if a client comes to you with a lot of problems, you have to be able to sit down and segregate what are the things that I can help my client with and what are the things that I believe are above my pay grade, and can I inform my client about that? Okay. So, a challenging client case does not automatically mean that you reject yourself. A lot of coaches do that a lot. A lot of coaches tend to reject themselves outright, that no, this is just, beyond me. And this often comes from this place that I can only help somebody if I feel I can help them. You have to understand that your feeling that I can do something comes from how much practice you've actually done. And the thing with practice is that you have to build up the muscle to take up challenging client cases, right? Sometimes your client will feel very lost. Sometimes your client will, do a lot of emotional vomit and you will feel overwhelmed. Sometimes a client may not speak up at all. There are different kinds of people, right? It does not mean that you abandon them. The second thing to understand is that coaching and therapy can happen together. So let me give you some real life examples that has happened with me. In the very first year of my business itself, somebody came to me and they started working with me. And I asked them a lot of questions about their history and everything was going well. And around the second or third session, they told me that, Rianshi, I think my depressive symptoms are coming back. And I said that, okay, thank you so much for telling me. I want you to go and consult the therapist that you were working with so that you can work on this. We can pause the container right now and you can come back to it if and when you feel like it. This person went and this person tried to work with the therapist. It did not work out with them. They came back to me 2-3 weeks later and they told me that the progress that I've made with you in just last 3-4 sessions have been far more than the progress that I've made with therapy. And even then, I told them that I need you to still work with a good therapist for your depression, because this is the scope of work that I can give to you. And this is the scope of work that you do need. Right. So I made it very clear to my client. So they worked with me for a long time. We worked for, I think, 6-7 months. And they also worked with a therapist side by side. They stopped working with them later on because their coaching became more effective. But the point was that I did clarify it with them. Another case I would tell you that happened was a client was working with me. And at that point of time, they also had a therapist. But because they loved my work so much, they wanted to work with me. At that point of time, I also told them, I want you to go and inform your therapist that you're also working with a coach, because I do not want your existing work to be, derailed or get interfered by because of the work that we are doing. Okay. It should be complementary. It should not feel like you're being pulled in two directions. So they went and did that. Okay. And similarly, a lot of times I have had clients who I have found had diagnosed mental health disorders. And I told them clearly that, look, even with a trauma-informed approach, these are things that I can help you with. These are things I cannot help you with. And they still chose to work with me for a variety of reasons. One, because I still chose to stay with the problem of my client. I did not abandon them. I did not doubt myself. I did not abandon my self-belief. I told them, this is what I can help you with. Right. So they wanted to work with me. Second was I was very honest from the beginning. So there was no scope of me doubting myself or me thinking that, oh my God, my client is not getting the right kind of help. I was always very, very clear. So make sure that you describe your scope of work to your client. Let them know this is what I can help you with and this is what I cannot help you with. And then let them make the choice. Another thing you need to understand is that oftentimes the reason why some clients do not go to certain therapists or certain coaches is because the energy of the therapist or the coach is such that does not align with the client itself. And that is why some people will be pulled to work with you because of the energy that you hold. A lot of times I've worked with some people who have found some coaches and therapists both to be very discriminatory. People who look down upon them, people who came from a very preachy energy or who started giving them advice and stuff like that. Right. I've had people I've had clients who have worked with me at 4 times the price than what they were paying to their old coaches and therapists because they did not work for them. Not because those were underqualified. It's because there's an energy clash. At the end of the day, you have to understand that when you are working with somebody's emotions and thoughts, they actually have to feel safe with you. And people don't safe with you because you have a certain degree or a qualification. People safe with you because of the energy that you carry, the kind of self-belief and clarity that you carry. So sometimes your clients would work with you because of who you are. In fact, most of the times that is the case. That is also the reason why a lot of people who have a lot of degrees and qualifications still do not have a full roster of clients. Why? Because their energy still carries that lack of security, lack of confidence, pride issues, ego issues, and whatnot. So if your client chooses to work with you because they love your energy, that's something to, feel good about. That's something to take as a compliment, right? And last thing I want to tell you is that whenever you are working with somebody, whenever a client is sitting across you, treat them as a human being. Okay, don't make it about yourself. Coaching at the end of the day is very client led. Coaching is about putting your client's need first. Do not go into yourself and do not start seeking validation from the client. Do not start making it about your certification. Objectively analyze the client's case. Okay. Be open to letting them know what you think and be open to letting them know what your scope of work is and let the client decide. Do not self-reject. Okay. If you're self-rejecting, then you are not in an ecosystem. You are not in a program that is helping you. For example, in my lifetime coach training and monetization program, LCTM, the supervision is for lifetime. My students sit with me every single Friday in our Friday LCTM calls, and they take my supervision in their client cases where they're feeling stuck, if there is a mental emotion block, so that they're able to help their clients better, right? And that's why my clients don't self-reject the way other coaches do. So if you are stuck with this problem, right, that you seem to feel that I'm not qualified or I should be getting this degree, that degree, your problem is not a degree or a certification, okay? Your problem is your identity. You still don't believe in yourself. You still don't believe that you're qualified enough. And for that, you need to work on yourself. And if that is something that appeals to you, you can always work with me as well inside LCTM or find another program. But please do take a good amount of supervision and please do have a mentor with yourself so that you don't end up, rejecting yourself before the client even has a chance to say something to you. All right. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any particular question about the field of coaching and if there's something stopping you, drop me a DM and I would help you out. Bye-bye.